What's going on, you little gospel gangsters out there? It's your big boy Aaron J to C, and we're back in the house with another Axios Media video. And today we're gonna have a look at a very controversial topic and a very weird topic for my own personal view, because we're not going to look at something that's a reacting video or some sort of a celebrity video, some sort of thing. We're going to look at a church video that involves a very weird performance and a weird event. All right, we're going to look at two things here. We're going to look at Pastor Mark Driscoll, who basically got kicked off of a stage, and we're going to look at one more, which is what took place during this event at this church conference. So in order to get these things down, we're going to have a look at this. All right, no, we're at a YouTube channel called James River Church. Now, this happened 2 weeks ago, so I can't find the video 2 weeks ago. So apparently they took down the video and they took down the streaming service for it. But whatever the case may be, we're gonna have a look and see what's so important about this
Here's your
event.
life.
And we're gonna understand why this controversy and this weird event took place is such a big deal. Now, first and foremost, a church is always a place, a platform for people to just come and brothers and sisters to just be together, put aside your differences and just come into a place where God is exalted and he is lifted high above all things. And not only that, this event was very weird. Okay, so James River Church, what they usually do is they usually have a conference. Okay, it's called, if I'm not mistaken, it's called the men's conference. Okay, men's conference. Okay, and just by looking at the thumbnail, you will understand what I'm trying to say. This is a very weird event here. So it takes place during the conference where some things are happening and some things are just not right. So in my opinion, this is probably one of the weirdest things I've seen in my entire life. But we're gonna look at it and we're gonna have a look at what this whole thing's about. So we're gonna look at this article. Okay. Mark Driscoll kicked off stage for calling out strip club-like performance at Stronger Men's Conference. All right. So the controversial pastor, Pastor Mark is on the right here, and this is the performance that's taking place. He's not a man that is full of, great things as well. I mean, he's full of controversy on his own life, but this one took to a whole new level. I mean, we're talking about him calling out the pastor and calling out this event as a a very demonic kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? So controversial pastor Mark Driscoll was kicked off stage during his sermon at James Rivers Church Stronger Men's Conference. So I just opened up this website for Stronger Men's Conference, which took place on April 12th and 13th. Was a 2-day event, and so far nothing is loading up. So I'm guessing that they took this down or something, or maybe my internet connection. Okay, so it is my internet connection. So maybe the internet connection is not good for me. Okay, so what I'm gonna say is that they took down this website. All right, so I don't think it's a connection because my connection is like the best in the world. So I think they took down this video and this website thing because I can't go to it. And not only that, apparently you can't find any footage of this, of the live performances and so forth, but you can see some clips online where people actually post some stuff. So I'm gonna forget about that. So we're gonna have a look at this. Okay, it took place on a Saturday after publicly disagreeing with the conference's opening performances. Driscoll said the performance was something that could have been seen in a strip club for women. The Stronger Men's Conference is known for its over-the-top opening performances, which have included a live MMA fight, death-defying circus-like acts, professional bull riding, motocross, and monster trucks. Now, if this was a non-Christian event, I would understand, it would make sense. But this is a Christian conference, which means that the church has a limit to do certain things like this. If you're going to do a performance, you can do like maybe a church performance, like maybe some dancing, some singing, some choir, and maybe something different. Okay, but when you bring worldly things outside of the world and bring it into the church, you're basically allowing things from the outside to enter and pollute the environment of the church, because the church is supposed to be, it's just like the temple in the Old Testament. It's a place where you come into the Holy of Holies and you just, present yourself to God as who you are, and God loves you, and you offer your life as a living sacrifice pleasing unto Him. But when you allow the things of the world, drag into the church, you get what I mean. Things start to open up and things start to get weird. So Driscoll is the founder of the senior pastor of Trinity Church. Okay, he's best known for founding and leading the now dissolved Mars Hills Church. Okay, a multiple campus megachurch from which he resigned in 2014 after he was accused of controlling and abusive behavior. All right. So Mark Driscoll asked to start preaching. So during that performance and so forth, like during this performance, everything, he was asked to, I mean, he was giving his sermon like in the first few minutes, and all of a sudden he got kicked off stage. And guess what happened? What happened to the video? Like, come on. Okay, let me refresh this. Great. You see, somebody took down the video. Are you absolutely kidding me? So the point is that that was a clip. So good thing about this is that there's another one right here. So here you can see is that he has labeled this church as a Jezebel spirit church. So pastor kicked off stage at Christian conference in Missouri. So this is something that I do not like to see when the church, abuses its power and uses their own means to like blame somebody. So let's just have a look in this, okay, and see. So there's no audio here, so I'm just going to talk about it. This came after he criticized a sword-swallowing act and made derogatory remarks about the transgender individuals. Okay. So Driscoll likened the act to a strip club for women and stated that the Jezebel spirit opened our event. Well, he's not wrong, because when you open up stuff like this to a church, it's basically a Jezebel spirit. There's nothing so weird about it. It's true. The incident occurred during the Stronger Men's Conference hosted by James River Church, where Driscoll was a guest. He was a guest speaker at this church, so of course he's going to talk about this. He was asked to leave the stage by lead pastor John Lindell after calling on the audience to stand against LGBTQ plus community members. The fact that the church asked him to leave in regards to not supporting and to stand against LGBTQ plus and so forth, it's just shocking that a church would think that, this pastor is going against them. I mean, let me tell you something. This is true. A church should stand on the foundation of righteous principles, on the biblical principles. And when you support the LGBTQ, now I don't hate them. I pray for them. I love them as who they are. But I don't love as who they are in the sense like they do a lot of their mindset is tarnished, it's worldly, it's full of evil plans and so forth. I love them as a person, but not as what they're doing. But in this case, I think what he did was good for Mark Driscoll. He did a pretty good job in showing the truth. In 2014, he was asked to leave the Mars Hill Church amid accusations of bullying and mismanagement. So, okay, he was asked to leave even though he founded the church. So his departure was brought on by statement in radio, in which he was accused of plagiarizing the pastor's work. So Pastor Driscoll himself is full of controversy. But that's not the point here, okay? His past controversy has nothing to do with this. The fact that this man, Pastor Mark Driscoll, has stood up against what he believed is true and was kicked off for something that was supposedly evil, and it's just something that was just confusing to me, and it started a big ruckus. It went viral all over the world that a church would kick off a pastor for saying that it's what they're doing is evil, and they are kicking him out because they disagree. So let's just have a look here. Pastor Driscoll kicked off stage at men's conference after he calls out Pastor John Lindell for allowing a demonstration. Oh God, I'm sorry about that. After allowing a demonstration, where am I? There we go. After allowing a demonstration from a male stripper. The incident happened on Stronger Men's Conference. Yeah. Okay, so there is a big thing here. Driscoll remarks, came following a performance from Alex Magala, a sword swallower who took off his shirt, climbed the pole, and swallowed a sword live at a conference, according to reported by Newsweek. Before the Word of God was opened, there was a platform. It was a high place, said Driscoll. Said the video posted online. On it was a pole, the same thing that used as a strip club for women who have the Jezebel spirit to seduce men. So the point I'm trying to make is that if you do not know who Alex Magala is a very famous sword swallower and performer. He actually has performed in America's Got Talent. If you see some pictures here, there we go, and America's Got Talent. He has performed in America's Got Talent. He's pretty famous, okay, and he has done this before many times. I'm not gonna watch the video on this, but he was invited, and himself is a Christian, okay. He himself is a Christian, Alex Magala. But I'm not too sure why would this be something that he was invited to do, This is basically a very weird thing to see. So let's just have a look at this video and see what the Lord is about to tell, because I believe the Lord just wants me to like speak this out and speak the truth, you know what I'm saying? It's just crazy.
Let me do this.
There we go.
But let me do.
Sorry, let me just put this into a high quality. Okay, let's go.
But let me do this. I've been up since 1 o'clock in the morning. The reason I'm hoarse is I have been praying for you, and my heart is very burdened for you.
Nice watch though he's having.
And I want to be very careful with this, and it's not what I want to say, but the Jezebel spirit has already been here. The Jezebel spirit opened our event. This is a rebuke and a correction of no one. This is an observation.
Wow,
Before
for a
the word
pastor
of
to
God
say
was
that is
opened,
actually pretty impressive that he
there
would
was a
actually
platform.
stand up for
It
something.
was a high place. On it was a pole, an ashtray. The same thing that's used in a strip club for women who have the Jezebel spirit to seduce men. In front of that was a
I like how people are
man
clapping like they
who
agree.
ripped his shirt off like a woman does in front of a pole at a strip club.
Wow. People are clapping.
That man then ascended. See, our God is not arrogant. He doesn't ascend. Our God is humble. He descends. And then he swallowed a sword, and Jesus cried, okay, Pastor John, I'll receive that. Thank you.
Okay, let me stop here. If you do not know who that was actually the pastor, Pastor Lindell. I think that's his name. Yeah, he was kicked off. Yeah, let me see. Is this the pastor's name here? There we go. Yeah, Magala's performance. Okay, that John Lindell. Yeah. So John, if you do not know who that voice was, that was John Lindell, Pastor John Lindell, actually telling him that he's out of line. Yeah, you should get off the stage. You're out.
Swallowed a sword.
Let's hear it again.
And Jesus cried, okay, Pastor John,
Go back again. Hear that again, okay? It's very soft.
and then he swallowed a sword.
Out of line, Mark.
And Jesus cried, okay, Pastor John, I'll receive that. Thank you.
That he says you're done. So he puts on his hat, he gets his stuff, and he goes out. Look at that. This is him walking out right now, okay? This is Pastor Mark Driscoll walking out right now, and this is somebody recording and telling what is happening right here, okay? And everybody is not. And listen to this. Look here. Hear that. Look at that. The people who are booing, they're not booing at Mark Driscoll. They're booing at the senior pastor, John Lindell. They're booing at him because they know what's happening. They're rising up and they're saying that, yeah, what he's saying is true. This should not happen in the church. This should never even have occurred ever. But yet, the pastor, the senior pastor, John Lindell, is actually, saving his own butt from this. He's actually saying that it's nothing wrong. He's saying that this is okay and that he was out of line and then he should not have done this. But let's just have a look at what the pastor says. See, they're angry at this pastor because he kicked him off for telling the truth.
If Mark wanted to say that, he should have said it to me first. He didn't. Matthew 18. Matthew 18. If your brother offends you, go to him privately. I talked to Mark for a half hour. There was not one word of that. He's out of line. If he wanted to say it, he could say it to me. You may not agree with me. You may not agree with Mark and I talked.
Okay, so let's just go back to a little bit. Okay, he was quoting from Matthew chapter 18. Okay, let's just have a look at what he was trying to say about Matthew chapter 18. You see, the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, okay, causing to stumble. You see, if anyone causes his little ones who have believed in to stumble, it would rather be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of the things that cause people to stumble. Such things come, but woe to the person through whom they come. If your hand or foot causes you to stumble, cut it off, throw it away. It is better for you to enter life maimed or crippled than to have 2 hands or 2 feet to be thrown into eternal fire. If your eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and to be thrown into the fire of hell. So this is actually an important verse because we're talking about the church. The James River Church has literally stumbled from this. They have literally messed up their entire congregation because of this. Look at this. Dealing with sin in the church. Let's have a look at this, okay? If your brother or sister sin, go and point out the fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. But if they not listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter they make established by the testimony or two or three witnesses. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. And if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly I tell you, if two of you and on earth agree about anything they ask for it, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three are gathered in my name, there I am with them. So basically, Mark chapter 18, Matthew chapter 18, I lost my conscious of thought there. Matthew chapter 18 is an important verse and chapter. But we have to understand that the both wrongs were at both pastors. Yeah, the first wrong was actually this church, James River Church, this Stronger Man's Conference. This was a very silly thing for them to do. They've been doing this for some time and for a long time. And they have been allowing the worldly things of the world pollute the things of the church by allowing like monster trucks, MMA fights, sword swallowing, stripping, and so forth. And they allowed this for men's conference. But not only that, we also see that Mark Driscoll was also out of line. I mean, yes, what the pastor would say was true. He has talked to Mark about this, and they're very close friends. I'm saying they're very close friends, and they've been talking to him about this for 30 minutes and so forth. And not one word came out of Mark on this regards to what has happened. But what I would say is that Mark should have handled this a little bit more professional. He should have at least told to the pastor after the church was over, but I think he was very bold enough to actually tell it to the whole audience of the church, because it is something for them to pay attention. Because yes, we may be tempted with our eyes, but we're very tempted to see things from the physical perspective. The spiritual perspective is that men can stumble and fall when they see certain things that attract to them, like carnal things like sex and pornography and pleasures of the flesh, and things that attract men to certain things, including women too. But when a pastor out of nowhere comes and say that your church has a Jezebel spirit, you know there's something wrong. But he's also wrong at the same time, because Mark is full of controversy as well. But the point is that this church has really out of line, and Mark was bold enough to actually stand up and say that, hey, this church is doing something wrong. You all have the spirit of Jezebel. You need to stop and turn back to the Father. God loves you, but you have to repent. And it's something that I think we all need to take very into of this, You
may not agree with me. You may not agree.
Mark and I talked.
This is after everything was done, okay? They talked about this in the short time, and let's see how it turns out.
We went outside where we could be alone and we could talk. And we've reaffirmed our friendship. And Mark, I want you to know, you're a gift to...
Reaffirmed our friendship? What does that got to do with the conference? You know yourself, you did what was wrong.
The kingdom. You're a gift to James River. You've been a gift to Debbie and I. You've helped us in things. You've been kind to my family, mentored my sons. And I love you. And I told Mark, listen, he says, I'll do whatever you want. I said, well, if you're willing.
Mark says, I'll do whatever you want.
And we could come in and talk, and we'll let him talk here in a moment. If you're willing, I want you to speak again. I want to find out about Elijah.
Come on! So basically, he was talking about a sermon on Elijah, okay? And he basically talked about it, and he's talking about how Elijah was resembling, the story of Elijah was resembling as what has happened in the conference. So I'm actually very shocked that both of them, they reconciled back. But not only that, I'm actually shocked that Mark is actually apologizing for what he has said when he knows himself that something's wrong. Now let's have a look now. I like how the audience is applauding, saying that, it's fine, he's forgiven. Oh, look at that.
I believe what I should have done, since I had another session, I was thinking about it. It wasn't in my notes. I didn't intend to go there. I was up late praying for the men. I just kept seeing it. And I should have, between sessions, talked to you rather than just verbal processing on the stage. And as the father and the head of the house, you could have given me a thumbs up or down, and I need to honor that as spiritual authority. And I honor your spiritual authority.
The fact that he's apologizing is actually a bit of a shame, because we're talking about a pastor who really has the power and on fire for God, and we see that what he's seeing is actually true. there is some evil that's happening in this conference, in this church. And for him to like say like, oh, it's okay, I'm sorry, I was out of line. I was, yes, okay, he was a bit out of line for like sharing it to the whole audience because it wasn't the right time and the right place for it. But it was obvious. We needed someone like him to stand up and say that something's wrong in the church and there needs to be a change.
I apologize to you for not going that route, which would have led us from the most awkward moment in the history of any men's
He's apologizing to the pastor and to the whole church.
And I mean, if I were you, I wouldn't let me speak again. That's what I should say about
If I were you, I wouldn't let me speak. Wow.
Pastor John, when I was at the lowest point of my life, I wasn't sure I was ever going to go into ministry again. I thought if I do go into ministry, I want to do it with my family, with my wife and kids and daughters. So I flew up and met with you and Debbie, and you sat me down on the couch and you were like, here's some thoughts. And we've architected our whole church and ministry in large part on that conversation. And my whole family is blessed. And they're blessed because you and your wife let me sit on your couch. So thank you, and I love you very much.
Okay, so I guess Mark is like trying to apologize because he really wants to, you know, get this ministry going, and he really wants to get that church money after the service and so forth. But the point is that yeah, I think what he's saying was was pretty sad also for him, because he was at a very low point of his life when he got kicked out of his own church, his own founding church. He was basically at the very lowest point of his life. He dealt with a lot of depression and a lot of, you know, questions about whether he was going to go into ministry. But I guess he's at this point where if he talks too much on this, then he's going to have to get kicked out. But I still believe that he's never should have retaliated back and just said sorry. Of course, he should have done it a little bit nicer in a proper way. But this should have been the eye opener to all the churches out there, that when there's something wrong, don't sit there and agree with it, okay? Just come out of your seat and just, you know, go at what book of Matthew chapter 18 says. Take him to the side and talk. Have a witness there and just talk and see what's going to happen, all right? But this one is just living proof that, you know, power in the church can really cause somebody to dwindle down. And it just goes to show that Mark Driscoll is a testimony of that.
You're up one. I was up number 4. Just praying. I totally missed.
Okay, we're gonna stop here because they're just jibber jabbering about stuff. So we're gonna have a look at this one for a couple of people before we see what's gonna happen.
Pastor Mark Driscoll was just kicked off stage at the Men's Stronger conference in Springfield, Missouri, because he saw a male performer on what seemed to be a stripper pole.
And it's not what I want to say, but the Jezebel spirit has already been here. The Jezebel spirit opened our event. This is a rebuke and a correction of no one. This is an observation. Before the Word of God was open, there was a platform. It was a high place. On it was a pole, an ashtray. The same thing that's used in a strip club for women who have the Jezebel spirit to seduce men. In front of that was a man who ripped his shirt off like a woman does in front of that. So John, I'll receive that. Thank you.
If Mark wanted to say that, he should have said it to me first. Matthew 18. I talked to Mark for a half hour. There was not one word of that. He's out of line.
So what do you think? Drop your comments. Let's talk about it. Pastor Mark.
Wow. Let's look at the comments. Standing ovation to Pastor Mark for standing up for righteousness. It was a public situation, and the men there were needed to know this was wrong. Thank God for men who honor God like Mark Driscoll. Why is there a male performance stripping or even dancing, period? For a Christian conference about our creators anyway. Mark was right. He should have said after that, I don't want to be part of the blasphemy to the Lord, and walk off stage himself. I think he was right to say what God put in his spirit to say. Now, this is exactly what I agree. A lot of people are supporting Mark Driscoll for standing up for what is right. But I do not agree with the fact that he had to apologize for it. Now, it's okay if you want to apologize on behalf of the church for not telling them earlier, but he should not have apologized in a sense. He should not have done it and apologized for what he believed was righteous, you know.
Pastor Mark Driscoll was kicked off the stage at a men's event. Here is exactly what happened. Stay till the end.
The Jezebel spirit opened our event. This is a rebuke and a correction of no one. This is an observation. Before the Word of God was open, there was a platform.
The
There
same
was a
thing
high
what has
place.
happened earlier. We're just looking from a different
On it
perspective.
was a pole, an ashtray.
If you don't know what an Asherah is, I'm just gonna have to show it to you. So who is Asherah in the Bible? Asherah basically, technically means is this. It is both Hebrew pagan fertility god and the wooden cult object dedicated to her. So it's basically a wooden object of a pagan god that's about fertility, okay?
The same thing that's used in a strip club for women who have the Jezebel spirit to seduce men. In front of that was a man who ripped his shirt off like a woman does in front of a pole at a strip club. That man then ascended. See, our God is not arrogant. He doesn't ascend. Our God is humble. He descends. And then he swallowed a sword, and Jesus cried, okay, Pastor John, I'll receive that.
This is an important discussion for ministry. Check out this video.
Alright. Driscoll fears God, not man. He said did the right thing at the right time. Why and how did John or any of those organizers think that a male stripper performer would be appropriate in any way at a Christian man's conference? I'm glad he exposed the demon spirit Jezebel. God's altar is holy and not to be defiled. This is exactly why we are all supporting Mark Driscoll. Now, of course, he's a man that's full of controversy, I would say. But I'm not going to talk about Mark himself. I'm going to talk about the principles that he stood up for. He stood up for the right spirit. Now, if you hear some barking, that's my dog. But anyway, he stood up for the right spirit. And the spirit that leads will surely be a good spirit. So let's just have a look at what we are watching right now at the men's conference. This is exactly what happened on this day.
We're going to talk about how to be an Elijah and how to deal with the have a Jezebel. But let me do this. I've been up since 1 o'clock in the morning. The reason I'm hoarse is I have been praying for you, and my heart is very burdened for you.
When he said, after this incident, they try to play it off like, he's tired, he slept at 1 a.m. in the morning, and then he does not have enough sleep and so forth. But let me tell you something, the audience here was very angry. I mean, look at this. Are you serious, man? Okay.
أنا عزام عمري 13 سنة إنه بحلم.
The audience here was very angry.
If Mark wanted to say that, he should have said it to me first. He didn't. Matthew 18. Matthew 18.
So it's basically the same thing as what has happened. The only difference is that we're watching a performance
of a man taking off his shirt. And then climbing up something that does look remarkably similar to a stripper pole. Mark accepts being kicked off stage.
Okay, Pastor John, I'll receive that. Thank you.
But then when John goes onto the stage to explain himself, the audience turns against him. John quotes Matthew 18, which talks about first confronting sin privately.
Matthew 18. Matthew 18. If your brother offends you, go to him privately.
But many are saying that Matthew 18 doesn't apply here, since public sin warrants public confrontation.
There was a platform. It was
This is a
high
public
place.
event, you know, and it's being broadcasted.
On it was a pole, an ashtray. The same thing that's used in a strip club for women.
So I'm not going to repeat this. I'm going to tell something that the Stronger Conference has a lot of things. So let's just have a look at this one here. This trailer.
1. I think putting on stage at a Christian men's conference a man who rips off his shirt and climbs up a pole like that does cross the line. I probably wouldn't go as far as to call that man a male stripper, but I definitely agree that the optics look really bad. And I do think that this kind of desire to emphasize entertainment so much harms the biblical message we are supposed to be communicating. We see this kind of inappropriate entertainment being associated with the biblical message so often in many megachurches that really want to put on a
very
good
weird concept. This pastor, I forgot his name, but he has a very weird concept. He's blown up like a balloon. This pastor
He
is
even
going
had a
viral.
female hung on the cross while secular performers danced to the secular song on a supposed Christian church resurrection
This
celebration.
is not a funny joke. This is bad. And this is a pastor, you know. This is happening in Crossroads Church. This is a pastor. This recently happened on February 11th. A pastor going on a wrecking ball, singing to a song that's sung by Miley Cyrus' Wrecking Ball.
Step one, find you a baddie. Okay. But step two, she gotta have a fatty. Hey.
Oh my
Even if
goodness.
it's inappropriate or distracts from the sense.
This is a performance in a church. In a church. This is not like in a strip club or in another performance or in a woman empowerment section outside of church. This is happening in a church.
Message we're trying to communicate. 2. I definitely agree that this kind of entertainment put on at this men's conference should be called out for what it is.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I do
Why
commend
is it
Mark
even
for having
allowed?
the courage to call it out publicly.
Who allowed
but Mark
this?
is a man who still has issues we can't just ignore. As the pastor of Mars Hill
That's what I've
Church,
been
Mark
mentioning, you
exhibited
guys.
lying, manipulative, and abusive behavior. And to some extent, he still sees himself as a victim of what happened to him. So my response to what Mark did here is mixed. I do believe that it requires a certain kind of man with a certain kind of courage to do what Mark did at this conference, and I think that what Mark did was good and right. But at the same time, I would not recommend Mark as a trustworthy Christian leader. 3. I think John Lindell is wrong about Matthew 18 applying here, because public sin does warrant public correction, and this performance that looks far too much like a stripper performance was a very public performance at a very public Christian men's conference. At the same time, John did mention that he had talked to Mark for 30 minutes, and that Mark did not say anything about this performance to him. So I do wonder if Mark was planning to make headlines by doing what he did, which he was certainly very successful in doing. And we do know that Mark, throughout his years of ministry, has been a master of generating media headlines.
Thanks, buddy. Aren't you a little hot? Man, I would hate it.
Well, this is what I do.
I do wonder why Mark didn't bring up any of his concerns with John while he had the chance before he shared his criticisms on stage. Again, I don't think it was wrong for Mark to do this, but I do have some questions about the whole situation. So those are my thoughts about this clip of Mark Driscoll that's going viral on Twitter and the internet. What do you think about all of this?
If all this is entertainment,
I love this pastor. He's very good.
Then why bother? But if we understand that God is about something and that Christ came to redeem a people for himself to his Father's glory, that the Spirit is about the business of applying that redemption in the lives of believers.
See, this is a very important thing. We're talking about a church that opened up its doors to evil. But as I said before, Mark Driscoll is not someone you should really follow because he himself has a lot of controversies. But let me tell you something. Now that I think about it, maybe Mark did this on purpose to clear his name. Maybe he thought like if he just like, maybe who knows, maybe if he just like called out the Jezebel spirit in this church or this conference, maybe he might clear his name from all the controversies. You never know. But I'm not gonna judge or like allegedly say anything, but I would say this is that we do not know which side we ought to trust. We as Christians ought to stand on the things that are righteous and things that are pure and things that are of God. And if we allow the world to pollute our ways and let carnal things guide the church, then we are no longer part of the church. We're part of the breakup. Christ himself called us the bride, and we are married to Christ. We are the bride, and the church is the bride of Christ. But the problem is, if we allow carnal things to pollute us, to feed us, and to allow us to have this thinking that the world can give more than what Christ can give, then we're going to have more than just a marriage. We're going to have a divorce. So it's a serious thing that all of us need to understand. We're going to need to look at this from a very different perspective, but not on the perspective of men, but on the perspective of the gospel. Well, that's all I can say to you guys about this. I'd like to thank you guys so much for support. Leave a like, share, subscribe, comment on the video too. Helps us to improve myself. And subscribe to Axios Media for more videos like this. Thank you guys so much for support. Thank you and God bless you. And make sure you have a good life and follow Christ and let Christ work a miracle in you. See you guys and bye-bye. Peace.